Do you really think so? Gosh! The barrier exploded in a burst of light. In an instant, everything returned to normal, the glowing lights in buildings, the cars moving on the streets below. Even the president's office was back as it should be. As order was restored, Gun-hee used his last bit of strength to shout at the ground beneath him. Now, under his feet, a shadow suddenly separated from his own, and began to take shape. It morphed into something small, but mighty, an ant. It dodged the monarch and screamed as it jumped out the window. Scrasa! The monarch stared after it, puzzled about where this little troublemaker had come from. It was just a single ant, like a tiny foot soldier for the king of insects. But the monarch couldn't stop staring at the shadow getting smaller and smaller in the distance. Wait! The monarch's eyes lit up with surprise. The ruler should have figured it out way sooner. Even though it hurt his own body, he saved up his energy for a reason. He needed enough power to smash through that barrier. No. The Frost Monarch looked shocked as it finally realized who the little ant really was. With a confused roar, the creature threw Gun-hee to the side and took off after the runaway ant. Cold air swirled around its hand, forming a sharp icicle. In a flash, it closed in on the foot soldier, ready to strike. But just as it swung, someone grabbed its wrist like a vice. Before the monarch could react, it was caught by the throat. The monarch's heart dropped as an enemy appeared, where the ant had been just moments before. But why? Jin-Woo's fingers dug into the Frost Monarch's neck like a vice, holding it in place so it couldn't wiggle free. He glared at the creature, totally confused. An ice elf. Jin-Woo had some serious beef with ice elves. Back when he was inside the Red Gate, they'd caused him major trouble. He tried to take down Barca, the boss, but in the end all he got was its dagger as a souvenir. And just when he thought he was over that whole mess, Jin-Woo's grip on the magic beast tightened, both around its throat and its wrist. Crack! Gah! The Frost Monarch let out a pained yelp. But wait, what was a high-rank magic beast like this doing outside a gate? That didn't make any sense. Jin-Woo quickly swapped places with his shadow soldier in midair, using ruler's authority to float about 7 or 8 stories high. He demanded, "What are you?" The creature looked like an ice slayer with its sharp ears and glowing silvery eyes. But it seemed ancient. Suddenly it roared, "Grah!" and shook Jin-Woo off with surprising strength. Before Jin-Woo could react, the beast gathered cold energy in its mouth, ready to attack. The image of Demon King Balan breathing lightning flashed into Jin-Woo's mind, and he swerved sharply to the side. Detrasa! A blast of frosty air zoomed past him, barely missing its mark. Startled by this display of icy magic, Jin-Woo quickly stepped back to create some space. He watched as the Frost Monarch brushed off the ice crystals that had formed on its shoulder. This wasn't just any regular monster. Jin-Woo's instincts were screaming at him. This was the toughest foe he'd ever faced. But Jin-Woo wasn't the only one caught off guard. The monarch's voice was full of disbelief, as it stared into Jin-Woo's shadow, clearly stunned by what it saw there. "Wait, how did you?" The monarch trailed off, shocked by the army of soldiers hidden in Jin-Woo's darkness. "Wow, you've gathered an amazing army," the monarch exclaimed. "Why haven't we heard from you until now?" Jin-Woo stayed silent, so the monarch stared into his eyes and let out a sad cry. "I understand. You must be the backup plan," the monarch said. Jin-Woo was totally confused, but didn't have time to ask questions. The hunter knew he couldn't relax, not even for a second. If he did, his enemy's sword could strike, and that would mean serious trouble. Just moments before, his shoulder had locked up on him, but now it pulsed with pain. He glanced down to check his shoulder. Pain shot through it clearly. This was no ordinary hit. Without making a sound, he pulled out the demon monarch's daggers from his inventory. Jin-Woo held one in each hand. Is this a mage type? He wondered. The creature had struggled to break free from his grip, which made him think its strength and defense were weaker than its magic power. Jin-Woo was okay with that. From fighting lots of magical beasts before, he knew that mage-type enemies were usually the easiest to deal with. Usually just one hit was enough to win a fight. Even if Jin-Woo and his opponent had the same level of magic power, Jin-Woo only needed to dodge its spells to gain the upper hand. The Frost Monarch could feel how ready Jin-Woo was to fight back, so it knew attacking without a plan would be a bad idea. The Frost Monarch hesitated for a moment, thinking hard about what to do next, but then made up its mind. We're done here. I'm not interested in a fight to the death. What? Jin-Woo frowned in confusion. He had no plans to let the creature go. So what did it mean by it? This thing was packed with magical power, more than he could even imagine. Beating it would probably give him a ton of experience points. Maybe even enough to level up 10 times, like after he defeated the giant king. Wait a second. A thought hit Jin-Woo, who wore what was this magic beast really? The monarch pointed toward a shattered window at the Hunters Association building. Aren't you here to save that human back there? Jin-Woo had rushed over because the ant he'd assigned to watch President Go had sent out an alarm. Jin-Woo turned his head toward where the monarch was pointing. That's when he saw President Go lying on the ground, unresponsive and drenched in blood. He looked like he was barely hanging on to life. Choose, the monarch said, forming a massive ice spear that glinted sharply. Fight me, or save him. In that same moment, the monarch threw the spear straight at President Go. Jin-Woo's eyes widened in shock as he stared at the weapon, hurtling toward the president. Time seemed to crawl as his senses kicked into high gear. An ice spear was zooming straight for the president. Jin-Woo shouted, "Ruler's authority," and tried to stop it with his mind. But the spear's magic pushed back. Furious, he shot a fierce glance at the Frost Monarch, who stood waiting for his next move. Jin-Woo bit down hard on his lip before sprinting toward President Go. Suddenly, a strong gust of wind blasted from where Jin-Woo had been, sweeping everyone off their feet. Just as the spear was about to strike President Go, Jin-Woo appeared out of nowhere. With lightning-fast reflexes, he knocked the spear off course. Equipped, the tip stabbed into the floor, sending a wave of freezing air through the room. Thus in seconds, the cold turned the floor to solid ice. Yikes! Jin-Woo grabbed President Go and lifted them both into the air, just escaping the spreading ice. When the cold finally stopped, he went back downstairs. Through the window, he saw the magic beast running quickly toward a small gate. Jin-Woo was furious because of these sneaky tricks. He pulled out Barca's dagger and tossed it at the Frost Monarch. Dagger barrage. So the dagger hit the Frost Monarch right in the shoulder. Arg! The Frost Monarch looked angrily at the dagger stuck in its shoulder, then glared at Jin-Woo. The beast snapped its teeth angrily before disappearing into the glowing gate. Jin-Woo didn't bother chasing after it. President Go was in really bad shape. Ugh. The old man groaned painfully, his face twisted in agony. Jin-Woo frowned, watching as President Go struggled to stay alive. A healing potion wouldn't help him now. There was one other thing he could try. Barhuff! Jin-Woo shouted loudly. He could feel a familiar energy rushing toward him from afar. Tchav. Barhuff! 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 Before finally stopping in front of Jin-Woo and kneeling down, "You called, my lord. Barhuff! Barhuff!" said his voice deep and serious. Jin-Woo gently laid President Go on the floor and stepped back, hoping Barhuff could save him. An old man was bleeding badly, and Jin-Woo's hands were covered in blood from holding him. Jin-Woo watched as drops of blood fell from his fingers one by one. Baru used all his magic to heal President Go. Just as Jin-Woo had asked, a warm glowing energy surrounded the president, but then a strange rumbling noise filled the air. To Baru's shock, the president's face stayed pale and worried-looking. "Master." Baru hesitated, afraid to meet Jin-Woo's gaze. "My magic. It's not working. I can't heal him." Baru's hands were shaking as he kept trying to cast the spell, showing how serious the situation was. Jin-Woo could feel that his soldier was using a huge amount of magic power. If this kept up, Baru would collapse too. Jin-Woo stopped the ant and checked President Go's condition. Even though Baru was giving it his all, President Go's condition wasn't getting any better. In fact, he was getting weaker by the second. Jin-Woo gasped as he stared at the gaping hole in President Go's chest. No matter how much healing potion he poured in, it wouldn't fix it. Something was really wrong. Jin-Woo's heart raced as memories of all the times President Go had helped him flashed through his mind. Without thinking, he grabbed the elixir of life and held it up, hoping against hope that this might save him. Someone yanked his wrist hard. "That's enough." President Go forced his eyes open. "President Go, gun," he gasped, like he might not breathe again. He gazed up at Jin-Woo and Baru. "You came. Thank you," he whispered, a weak smile spreading across his face. "Please, hold on a little longer. I'll get you to the hospital." Jin-Woo's voice was filled with urgency, but Gun-hee shook his head. It's no use. Healing magic can't fix this. Jin-Woo frowned, upset by Gun-hee's words. But then the president's trembling hand gripped his tightly. Listen, Gun-hee's eyes snapped wide open, burning like a flame about to fade out. I've seen what the Great Existence has planned, he said, his voice filled with determination. Their goals, their enemies, our enemies, and what we must do. Blood dripped from his lips, as he spoke. I'm so grateful, we have you, Gun-hee said, his eyes welling up with tears, as he stared at Jin-Woo in awe. Who knew you were so powerful? Thank goodness. His voice trailed off, overcome with emotion. He held the young hunter's hand tightly, in both of his own. His voice trembled as he spoke. The gates and dungeons. They weren't for them. They chose those places to protect us. Gun-hee suddenly hacked up a dark red glob of blood. Jin-Woo quickly reached for the elixir of life, but President Go shook his head firmly. Gun-hee knew his situation better than anyone else. Someday, he said, his voice filled with emotion, you'll have to make a choice. When that time comes, please, stay on the side of humans. Jin-Woo could feel the weight of Gun-hee's words, and it made him sad, but all he could do was listen quietly and promise to do as asked. Gun-hee had always wished he could fight alongside strong young people like Jin-Woo. I wanted to be out there with you, he admitted for the first time ever, but my body just wouldn't let me. This was the first time Gun-hee had shared this heartfelt wish, and it touched Jin-Woo deeply. Some people said he started the group just to get rich. Others called him names, saying he was an old man obsessed with power. But what really bothered him was having this great power, and not being able to use it. Gun-hee had created the association using his own money, because he wanted a place where he could use his powers to help hunters and be close to them. Still, I have no regrets. President Go's hand let go of Jin-Woo's and dropped back down. He looked up at the ceiling of his office, his eyes shining with tears. The usual dim light seemed extra sparkly because of his tears, so he blinked a few times. I'm so relieved, he said, his voice trembling. Thank you so much. With that, President Go didn't say another word. When Jin-Woo checked and found that President Go had stopped breathing, he gently closed Gun-hee's eyes. The president looked more at peace than ever before, especially after saying those final words of gratitude. Jin-Woo lifted his head, and suddenly raindrops started tapping against the broken window. Drip, drip, drip. The sky had been dark all morning, and now the rain was finally falling. The next day, every newspaper in the country had the same shocking headlines. First, the famous Brazilian hunter Jonas had been found dead near a river. Second, President Go of the Hunters Association of Korea had died from a massive hole in his chest. And third, Jin-Woo Sung, the guy everyone was talking about, had returned to Korea. The world was stunned when news broke about the deaths of legendary hunters like Jonas and Gun-hee Go. Headlines everywhere announced their shocking losses, leaving everyone wondering who could possibly take down these top-tier hunters. The U.S. Hunter Command Center stepped in, releasing an official statement that they were teaming up with hunter groups from all over the world to track down whoever was responsible. The news only made people more nervous. The protective walls that had kept everyone safe from magical creatures were now gone. As reporters and hunters talked non-stop about what was happening, the Hunters Association of Korea released a shocking video from President Go's office security camera. No way! Someone shouted. That's so not good. Another person cried. The video showed President Go and another man. The other man stabbed something sharp right into the president's chest. Everyone watching couldn't believe their eyes. It was super obvious that the second guy wasn't human. He was an ice alpha monster that should have been lurking in a dungeon, not taking down a top hunter. The video of him clearly showed him killing the hunter, and it quickly went viral online. A close-up of his creepy face spread like wildfire across the internet. The impact was huge. People realized that while hunters could go after magic beasts, sometimes they might become the prey instead. People were super scared. The hunters had always kept everyone safe, but now a big question loomed. Who was gonna protect the hunters? Things got even messier when people began arguing over whether hunters should be allowed to leave their country at all. They believed that since President Go had been killed while Jin-Woo was away from Korea, hunters like him shouldn't be permitted to travel. This drama put Jin-Woo right back in the spotlight during a time when everything was already chaotic. Everyone knew that Jin-Woo and President Go got along well, which made people curious about how Jin-Woo would react. But Jin-Woo didn't say a word. A few days later, the investigation into President Go's death was finally figured out. The day before his funeral, Jin-Woo quietly stopped by the Hunters Association. Director Jin Chul-woo looked really tired when he walked into the waiting room. "Sorry, Hunter Sung," he said. "I've been all over the place these past few days." He scratched a scruffy beard nervously as he apologized to Jin-Woo. The day they got back from the US, some shocking news made Director Woo rush straight to the Hunters Association, right after landing at Incheon Airport. That was 3 days ago. Before getting into why he was there, Jin-Woo had a question for Jin-Chul. "Why did you hold back some of the security footage?" The Hunters Association only shared up to the close-up of the Frost Monarch's face. The part where Jin-Woo and Biru went into the president's office wasn't shown. Jin-Chul scratched his head, looking really down. "Hunter's safety is our top priority," he said. "We won't reveal your secrets because we know how important they are to you. Showing off your skills is like showing all your cards in a game. It's not always the best move. The higher a hunter's rank, the more they try to keep their abilities under wraps because you never know when they might need them in a surprise situation." Jin-Woo had something super cool skill that let him teleport. He could go from the US all the way to the Hunters Association building in an instant. The Hunters Association agreed. They couldn't share this skill with the world unless Jin-Woo said it was okay. If President Go were alive, one of them said, he would have made the same decision. Jin Chul-woo respected President Go more than anyone. In fact, he tried to model himself after his late mentor. As he talked about President Go, his eyes got a bit red. "You know, you looked really serious when we got on the plane that day," Jin-Chul said. Jin-Woo nodded, confirming what Jin-Chul had suspected. Jin-Chul was really curious about why Jin-Woo seemed so off. But once he saw the video, it wasn't hard to figure out. Was the magic beast way too strong for even you to handle? Jin-Woo just shook his head. "By the time I got there, President Go was already." Jin-Woo's serious face made Jin-Chul look down sadly. "I'm sorry," Jin-Chul's voice trailed off as he struggled with his emotions. "I know you're hurting too," he continued. "But I just can't help how frustrated I feel." Jin-Woo tried to reassure him that it wasn't his fault. But this only made Jin-Chul feel worse because deep down, he knew Jin-Woo was innocent. Shaking his head slowly, Jin-Chul said, "I still can't believe what happened." His eyes stayed fixed on the floor as the weight of everything settled in around them. "President Go told me to hurry back because he wanted to hear everything that happened in the US. But then, I don't get why." Jin-Chul's voice cracked, and he couldn't finish. Jin-Woo waited calmly for him to go on. "What did President Go say before he passed?" Jin-Woo asked gently. "He said he was relieved." Jin-Woo replied. Jin-Chul's eyes widened in surprise. "What?" "He said he felt better knowing there are young people like you who would take care of the future." Jin-Chul's eyes welled up with tears again, thinking about how President Go had been worried about everyone else, even at the end. He wiped his eyes and nodded. "Thanks for being with President Go at the end." The calm look on his face made it clear the old man was genuinely relieved. Jin-Chul was truly thankful. Jin-Woo listened quietly to Jin-Chul. His thoughts had been all over the place the past few days, but now they felt like they were finally clearing up because of what Jin-Chul said. "I'm going to kill him with my own hands," Jin-Woo said coldly. "I'll take down the monster that took President Go's life, no matter what it takes." This wasn't just for President Go, it was also a warning to the creatures threatening Jin-Woo. Jin-Chul swallowed hard. The dark energy around Jin-Woo was intense. Even though it wasn't aimed at him, it made Jin-Chul feel like he couldn't catch his breath. Jin-Woo's anger pressed down on Jin-Chul like a heavy rock on his shoulders. But when Jin-Woo saw how pale Jin-Chul had become, he eased up a bit. "So, let's save the thanks for later," Jin-Woo said. Jin-Chul nodded slowly, trying to calm his racing heart. He agreed. But then something hit him. He had no idea why Jin-Woo was there in the first place. A hunter as skilled as Jin-Woo probably didn't show up just to figure out why some video footage wasn't made public. "Oh man. Now that I think about it, I never even asked why you came here," he admitted. Jin-Woo then made a request one he'd thought about for days, trying to decide what to do. "Can you set up a press conference for me?" Jin-Woo asked. The room where it would happen was packed with reporters. He had been in the news a lot lately, so everyone wanted to be there for his very first press conference. No one wanted to miss out on this big moment. As soon as Jin-Woo walked in, the chatter stopped, and the room fell silent. Everyone was excited to hear what he had to say. Everyone's attention was glued to Jin-Woo as he started talking. "There's a group of super smart magic beasts going after the top hunters," he announced. "These creatures are way stronger than any hunter out there, and they'll stop at nothing to get their targets." The room fell silent. "Wait, does this mean that more than one of these beasts was involved in President Go's death?" The reporters were blown away by what Jin-Woo had just revealed. His information about the 9 monarchs and an upcoming war between them and the rulers came from a surprising source. The King of Giants, who was also known as the Monarch of the Beginning. The monarchs had already started targeting hunters who used the ruler's powers, and 3 of them were dead. No one knew how many more were in danger. Jin-Woo had set up a way to keep track of some hunters through the Hunter Command Center's radar. But even he couldn't watch every single hunter out there. The situation was getting scarier by the minute, and it seemed like no one was safe. You never know where victims might show up, just like President Go did during his surprise press conference. This sudden meeting was meant to send a clear message worldwide. Beware of these magic beasts. These creatures use their sneaky magic to trap their targets between dimensions before attacking. Jin-Woo revealed. It was a big deal, and he only knew this because he'd actually met a monarch, a powerful being who ruled over these magic beasts. The advice was simple but important. If you think you might be a target, stick close to friends or coworkers who can help keep you safe. But Jin-Woo finally revealed the big reason for the press conference. "But if you don't have anyone who can help you, I'm here for you through the Hunters Association of Korea." The room erupted in awe. Jin-Woo was the guy who had beaten Thomas Andre, one of the best hunters in the world. The reporters were totally blown away. Jin-Woo acted so calm and confident that it seemed like the magic beasts weren't even a threat to him. This helped ease some of the worry in the air. But Jin-Woo had more than one plan in motion. He wanted to achieve 2 goals at once. By using retired hunters as bait, he could set traps to track the monarch's movements. If they went after anyone else like President Go, his plan would work perfectly. At least one magic beast was bound to fall into his trap. As Jin-Woo finished the press conference, reporters swarmed him with questions. "Hunter Sung, how did you find out about this group of magic beasts?" asked a reporter from the Daily News. "I've met them before," Jin-Woo replied simply. The room fell silent. Reporters quickly wrote down his words. Jin-Woo had actually faced these creatures twice, once against the King of Giants in Japan, and another time against the Frost Monarch in Korea. The reporters were stunned. "So you came out of those battles without getting hurt?" someone asked. Jin-Woo's eyes sparkled with a hint of a smile. Jin-Woo Sung had faced those magical creatures and lived. The room buzzed with excitement. This was huge news. Reporters were super excited and quickly took his picture. Snap, snap. Cameras clicked furiously. As reporters snapped photos from all sides, a hand shot up from the back of the crowded room. It belonged to Mr. Kim, a reporter who had followed another hunter named Jin-Chul into a dangerous place called the Double Dungeon. He was the one who wrote about what happened there, including the brave sacrifice of the hunters. Jin-Woo glanced over at Mr. Kim. Mr. Kim slowly lowered his hand and asked in a steady voice, "What will you do if you meet the magic beast that killed President Go?" Jin-Woo looked at the anger on Mr. Kim's face before turning off the microphone. "That's all for now," he said, then stepped away from the stage.